And in our numbering system in the Sephardic, we start actually from verse 1. And again, most parshot begin always with Vayedavar Yahweh El Moshe. And Yahweh spoke to Moses, Vayomer, and he said. And of course, we have a different pronunciation on Beha'alotcha. We would pronounce this Beha'alotcha, Beha'alotcha. And when you set up, in the setting up of the 7 lamps or the 7 fires, the 7 lights that were set up in the menorah. Now, a menorah is a lamp stand. A menorah is a lamp stand. And the menorah that Adonai had Moshe make had 7 branches. The menorah has 7 branches. And of course, 7, as we look through the whole of Scripture, we find that 7 is a number that shows us completion, work and rest, completion. It is in 7 days that Adonai made the heavens and the earth. In 6 days was the actual work, and in the 7th day he ceased from his labor. And so the first week, and of course the week has nothing to do with astronomy. We've said before that a day is when the earth revolves around itself one time. A month is when the moon revolves around the earth one time. A year is when the earth revolves around the sun one time. Those are astronomical cycles. But the cycle of the week is not astronomical. The only reason that there is a week is because of Torah. Torah is the only thing that shows us what a week is. 6 days of creation, and on the 7th, he completed the work. He ceased from his labor, and the work of creation was done, and he ceased from his labor. And this became now a day of ceasing. Today is a day of ceasing. From sundown last night to sundown tonight is a day of ceasing, a day of not laboring, a day when we take our rest. And the menorah, like so many other 7s in Scripture, shows us that this lampstand, one lampstand, but this one lampstand has 7 branches with 7 fires, with 7 lamps on top of it. Now, a lampstand is just a stand. And on top of that, they didn't have candles. In fact, candles weren't invented till the Middle Ages. What they had was the same golden as the lampstand. The lamps were gold. And they were about that big, and they had a light, and the lights faced forward, and it says there, make sure that they must throw the light towards the front of the lampstand. And in the sanctuary, in the holy place, the Holy of Holies was behind the curtain, and in front of in the holy place was the altar of incense that was here in front, and then the menorah was here. The table of the bread of the presence was on this side, and the menorah was on this side, and it was just a lampstand. A menorah is just a lampstand. And on top, on the flat little squares of the menorah, there was these removable lamps that were filled on a daily basis. And he says there to throw the light forward, throw the light in front. And of course, the reason for that is that the holy place would have light inside. The Holy of Holies behind the curtain had a light in between the cherubim on top of the mercy seat in the Ark of the Covenant, and that light was the Kavod Yahweh. The glory of Yahweh was there, and the glory would come, and the glory actually left several times when the Babylonians were coming, and when Antiochus, and in the time of Yeshua in the Second Temple period, there was no Ark of the Covenant in there, and we are not told if even the kavod was in the temple. We would assume it was, but since we are not told any place, I cannot make a judgment on that. But this menorah, verse 3 says, Aaron saw to this, he set up the lamps to the front of the lampstand as Yahweh had ordered Moshe. The lampstand was worked with beaten gold, including its stem and petals, which were also of beaten gold. The lampstand had been made according to the pattern Yahweh had shown Moshe. So the whole tabernacle, the whole Mishkan, every part of it was shown, was done according to the pattern, according to the model, the blueprint that Adonai gave Moshe the blueprints of every part of the Mishkan and every furniture and even the little golden rings, every aspect of it was a pattern, was a model, a blueprint. And of course, according to Hebrews 8:5, we know that this Mishkan, and later on the Temple of Solomon and the later temples and the future temples, are going to be made according to this pattern, according to this blueprint. Why? Because this pattern of the menorah, of the light, and of the Mishkan is only a model of what is in the heavens, what is the throne of Adonai. And so even today there is a heavenly Mishkan with Adonai at the real mercy seat, with a real menorah, with a real aspects of everything on earth. These here earthly things, according to the writer of Hebrew, these are just models, these are just replicas of the original in the heavens. And that's why when we come and study these things, we are looking at things that are modeled, that are replicas, but in the throne of Adonai. And when the new Jerusalem comes down from heaven, and it says there in the new earth, it says there that there the throne of Yahweh is with man, and the Father and the Lamb, Elohim and the Lamb, are going to be here, and they will be our Elohim, and we will be his people. And even at that time, this true heavenly Mishkan with a true menorah will come down. Go with me to the book of John in the Messianic Apostolic Writings, the book of John, and we're going to go to chapter 8, there in John. And in chapter 8, Yeshua is talking to Am Israel, the people again, and he says to them, I am the light of the world. Anyone who follows me will not be walking in the dark, but will have the light of life. Yeshua says, I am the light of the world. The world is darkness without the light. The world is in darkness without light. In fact, when Adonai created the world, he created the world tohu vavohu. And there was choshek, there was darkness over the face of the deep. And as this darkness, two interesting things are said there. It says, Elohim said, Yehi or, be light. Vayehi or, and there was light. But what's interesting is that he spoke, Vayedavar Elohim, he spoke, he said, words came out, the word of Yahweh came out, the word of Elohim came out, word came out. And as word came out, Yehior, Vayehior, light be, and light became. Well, interesting about that, Yeshua now is that light. But Yeshua is also that Chadavar, the Word. So Yeshua, the Word, Yeshua, light, at the very beginning, the first thing in darkness, as he had made the heavens and the earth, and everything was dark, and the earth had actually started revolving in that tohu vavohu, in that whatever it was at that time, and started revolving, and all of a sudden, light came. And Yeshua is that light. And if we follow him, we will not be walking in the dark, which also means that if we don't follow him, we're walking in what? We're walking in darkness. Estamos andando en las tinieblas. In fact, how many of you, every one of us, used to walk in darkness? Remember, we used to walk in darkness? And in darkness, we would stumble here and we would stumble over there. We'd fall over. But all of a sudden, the light of Messiah came and we were able to see, and now we are not falling. Sometimes, if we go back, if we backslide, if we go back, well, then we start what? We start stumbling. We start falling. By the way, always remember this. Pride goes before a fall. Pride goes before what? Before a fall. Anytime you fall, I always think that maybe I'm getting too proud of myself, and Adonai has to, I don't know how many times Adonai has had to shave me down, cut me down, because sometimes we start getting, oh, I know everything, and I do this, and, I'm really right on. And all of a sudden, Adonai has to cut us down so we could what? Humble ourselves. If we exalt ourselves, he's going to humble us. But if we humble ourselves, he will exalt us. Now, what's interesting is go to the book of Matthew. And in the book of Matthew, while over here, Yeshua says, I am the light of the world. In fact, another place says, as long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. But here in the book of Matthew, let's go to Matthew. And let's go to Matthew chapter 5. And Matthew chapter 5, verse 14. Now, Yeshua is the true light of the world. He has intrinsic light, which means that light comes out of him. Just like the sun has intrinsic light. But now it says, you are the light of the world. Now look at it now again in the Greek here. It's in the plural. You all. In Texan style, y'all are the light of the world. Now not only does Yeshua says, I am the light of the world. As long as I am the world, I am the light of the world. But now he says, you are the light of the world. What a strong responsibility. What an awesome responsibility we as humans, as fragile humans, have to reflect his light. The moon has no intrinsic light to it. The moon reflects the light of the sun. Now, we don't have intrinsic light in us, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Every one of us. There's no good man, no, not one, the prophet says. But we are a reflection. We reflect the reality of Yeshua unto the world. We are like a mirror, and light shines here. And if light was over there coming this way, I could get that mirror and reflect it over to a place of darkness. And think of yourself. Every one of you, young men, young women, think of yourself as a mirror. You don't have no light, but as you reflect and as you face towards Yeshua and let the light of Yeshua come, that light of Yeshua that comes is also going to reflect on darkness other places. And so the menorah was situated so that light could go forward, go in front. And every one of us, it says, you are the light of the world. A city built on a hilltop cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a tub, but they put it on the lampstand where it shines for everyone in the house. In the same way, your light must shine in the sight of men, so that seeing your good works, they may give praise to your Father in heaven. Again, an awesome responsibility. Because remember, we have to be humble enough to know that it's not my light. I am just a reflection of his light. He is the light of the world. I could only have light as he gives me light. And I could only reflect what he gives me and how I face him. Then I could reflect that light to others. And they give glory not to us, but they give glory to Adonai, because he is the true light. Elohim is light, and in him there is no darkness. And so every one of us must be shining lights. Every one of us must be like one of those little lampstands on a menorah. And by the way, the menorah is the symbol of the Kehillah. The symbol of the Kehillah is not a cross. I know a lot of congregations have crosses up there. The symbol of the Kehillah is not a spire. The symbol of the Kehillah is not even a Star of David, a Magen David, the shield of David. The symbol of the Kehillah, of the assembly, of the body of Messiah, is the menorah. And every one of us is a lamp on the menorah of the assembly. We are an assembly of lights on a menorah. Every one of you is a lamp. Every one of you is a fire on this lampstand that we call olive tree. Now we know that this is so because go with me to the book of Revelation. And today is a long sermon, so we're going to be here about 2-3 hours. Ay, ay, ay. Maybe another 20 minutes, I think. In the book of Revelation, en el libro de Apocalipsis, we see Yeshua there, and he is surrounded by 7 menorahs. In verse 13 of chapter 1, I saw 7 golden menorahs, 7 golden menorahs, and surrounded by them a figure like the son of Elohim, and it describes Yeshua. And then here in verse 20, the mystery of the 7 stars you have seen in my right hand and the 7 golden menorahs is this. The 7 stars are the messengers, the pastors of the 7 kehilot, the 7 congregations. And the 7 menorahs are the 7 congregations themselves. And so every congregation is a menorah. Every congregation that follows Yeshua is a menorah. And everyone in that congregation is one of the fires, one of the lights of that menorah. And remember, we here together shine one light, one menorah into the city. And every congregation shines those lights. And every one of you is important. We've done this other years and before where we turn off all the lights and we give everybody a candle. And we light one candle. And then that one candle lights other candles, and all of a sudden the whole congregation is lit up. But the opposite is also true. If you let your light go down and you, in a sense, are not shining brightly, or even your light is turned off, then the darkness grows in the city, in the congregation. And every one of those lights is like a soldier. And those of you that have been in the military, you know that every soldier has a part to play. And the more soldiers that are KIA or MIA, killed in action or missing in action, causes what's left to be more vulnerable. And I don't want Hasatan to snuff the light of any one of you, but every one of us needs to work and help. And when you see a brother or a sister, their light going down, I know they get upset. I know they, oh, I don't need, and all this type of stuff. But we need each other. We need to learn to love each other to the point that we could even help each other and rebuke one another and help one another and share with one another if we need to correct one another. Let's go back to Beha'alotcha here in the book of Numbers, and verse 6. Again, we're not going to talk too much about this. Separate the Levites from the sons of Israel and purify them. This section has to do with the offering of the Levites to Yahweh and their ordination and their dedication, their avodah, the service that they are called to give to Adonai and the Mishkan and the Kohanim. And they are to be set apart. Of course, we already studied about the Pidyon Haben and the Pidyon Haben. are the firstborn that are redeemed out of, if you are a firstborn son, one of the things that Scripture says is the firstborn son is redeemed, the pirion haben, is redeemed with shekels of silver. And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Let's see. I want to hit some of the duration of the Levite ministry. And there in verse 23 is from 25 to 50. From 25 to 50. For the Kohanim, it's from 30 to 50. But from the Levites, it's 25 to 50. And after 50 years old, they do not have avodah, they do not have service, but they will become what we would call today consultants to the younger men. Now, let's go to chapter 9. And we're going to spend a little bit of time on chapter 9, not much because we have so much. But in chapter 9, it says, Yahweh spoke to Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai. Bamidbar Sinai. Again, in the wilderness, we are in the wilderness at this point. In the second year after this exodus from Mitzrayim, from Egypt, in the first month. So in the first month, the biblical New Year, Rosh Hashanah, has come. And in the biblical New Year of Rosh Hashanah, of Exodus 12, the first day of the first month, the first day of Aviv has come. And in this month, we're within the next, probably the first days after. And he says to them, let the sons of Israel keep Pesach at its appointed time. Now, there are protocols to a biblical Pesach. There are protocols to a biblical Pesach. There's Mishpatim and Hukim. There's Mishpatim and Hukim for every Moed, for every holy day, for the Moedim, that we must follow. Again, as we come to Scripture, I want you to remember this. Always remember this. This is very simple. You learned this in first grade, and I want you to keep to this. Maybe second grade. 2 plus 2 equals 4. 2 plus 2 equals 4. I want you to remember that. Never forget that. 2 plus 2 does not equal 5. 2 plus 2 does not equal 3. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Now, if someone has taught you that 2 plus 2 equals 5 or 2 plus 2 equals 3, and you're stuck on that, it's okay. It's okay for now. But hopefully, we could throw out those two figures and come to understand that 2 plus 2 equals 4. 2 plus 2 equals 4 is truth. Is truth. Unchangeable truth. You cannot change that. You cannot alter that. Of course, the other ones are traditions. This group might say 5. This group might say 3. It doesn't matter what others say. What matters is what the Torah say. Let the sons of Israel, Bnei Israel, keep Pesach at the appointed time. Not whenever you want. Not when it's convenient for you. Not when you could manipulate the time. But at the moed, at the appointed time. And Adonai set the Moedim on the fourth day of creation with the sun and the moon, he said, make the sun and the moon. He created Elohim, create the sun and the moon, the stars. And he says, therefore, Moedim, for appointed times. And of course, in Leviticus 23, Numbers, Deuteronomy, other places, Adonai gives us the Moedim. He gives us the appointed times. And they must be followed. 2 plus 2 equals 4. Now, 2 plus 2 equals 4 is not legalism. That's truth. Now, the other ones could be legalism, and it is very legalistic to tell someone, I want you to believe whether you like it or not. Don't count, don't think of these things, but I want you to believe, I want you to know that 2 plus 2 equals 5. Now, that's being legalistic, because you're being forced into a law that isn't true. That's tradition, that's custom. But there's Mishpatim and Hukim that Adonai wants us to keep His Torah with. So there's only one appointed day, and let's go on. The 14th day of this Chodesh, of this month, of this moon. On the 14th day of the first moon is the appointed time for Pesach. Can't be the 12th, can't be the 13th, can't be this, can't be that. Those are 3s and 5s. Those are traditions. Those are customs. Those are things that people do by convenience. And this year, of course, there is the rabbinic, there's this messianic, that messianic, these people, those people. There's all kinds of dates. But it would behoove every one of us leaders. And I wish we could have a congregation of just leaders that we could start figuring out on the board what these truths are together, not just apart from one another, but together. And it's almost like, how many remember that movie, War of the Worlds? You guys remember that movie, War of the Worlds? I love that movie. And the part that I love about that movie is when the spaceman comes into the study of the professor. And the professor has like 2 or 3 blackboards. And on the 2 or 3 blackboards, there's all this formulae. There's all these equations. I'm sure E equals MC2 is someplace around there. But there's all these equations, and he's been working his life on these equations. And the professor is not there, if you remember. And the spaceman kind of comes in through the door's open. He comes in, and he gets the eraser. And he starts erasing, and he has the chalk. And he starts erasing and redoing formulae and erasing. And then all of a sudden, the professor's caretaker comes in, a little old lady comes in. Oh, what are you doing? That professor's been working on that. And at that time, the professor comes in. And the professor comes in and sees what the spaceman wrote. That's it. That's it. And in a sense, I believe this is what we need to do. I wish I could just come and just put this formula, this stuff on a board and tell my brother, correct me where I'm wrong because I don't know everything. But let me correct you where you're wrong because you don't know everything either. And humbly together we could come. Because to me, reading this is so simple. The sons of Israel to keep the Passover at the Moed. The 14th day of this month, between the 2 evenings, is the Moed, is the appointed time for you to keep it. You must keep it with all the mishpatim and hukim proper to it. With the very protocols, with the guidelines, with the precepts, the statutes, whatever the different translations say. Only one day. So it would behoove us again to find out what is the right day. When does the month begin? Well, not when does it begin today. Not when it begins to this group or that group, but when did it begin biblically? When did it begin biblically, Hebraically? Not Romanly, not Gregorianly, not Greekly, but Hebraically, biblically Hebraically. It goes on to say, Moses gave orders for the sons of Israel to keep the Pesach. They kept it in the Bamidbar Sinai, in the wilderness of Sinai, in the first month, on the 14th day of the month, between the two evenings. The sons of Israel did exactly as Yahweh had ordered Moshe. So look at that. Exodus 12 tells you what to do. In the second year, Moshe comes and he orders the people by Yahweh's command to do it again. This is the second year. The first Pesach in Goshen was special. But now we're not in Goshen no more. In fact, what makes today's Pesach special is that now we have a Mishkan. Now we have a tabernacle. In the first Pesach, the blood was put on the doorposts and lintels of the mezuzot and lintels of the house. In this second and subsequent Pesach, it is taken to the Mishkan, it is slaughtered at the Mishkan, the blood is poured on the altar, and the person takes the Pesach lamb back home, roasts it, and goes according to the protocols that were told in Exodus 12, and then they eat the Pesach. And that occurred from the time of today to 70 A.D., when our last temple was destroyed by Titus and the Roman armies. And it will continue for the third, and definitely it will continue for the fourth temple. The third temple is the one that will be built here soon. And that's the temple that the anti-Messiah is going to come in after within a 7-year covenant with Israel. In the middle of the covenant, he will set up a statue of himself, according to Thessalonians and Revelation 13, and occur the abomination of desolation, when the kavod of Adonai again leaves the third temple, and then at the end, Yeshua will come back and destroy and build the fourth temple, Messiah's temple, the Messianic kingdom, the paradise temple, and that'll go on for 1,000 years until Adonai brings eternity, and then we go to eternity with him. But anyways, so over here, we have on the first month, on the 14th day. Now watch what it says in verse 6. It happened that certain men had become unclean by touching a dead body, that they could not keep the Passover that day. One of the most important aspects of a Passover is our state of cleanliness. Remember, there's two words. The word kosher is not used biblically for things like this. Today we use the word kosher for foods. This is kosher wine, or kosher Torah scrolls, or kosher this. Those are not used biblically. What is used is tahor and tamai. Something that is tahor is clean. Something that is tamai is unclean. And remember, we explained that last week and weeks before, that tahor means to be presentable before Adonai. To be tamai means to be unpresentable. Clean and unclean are English words we use, but they do not give you the impact of the Hebrew tahor, tamai. And so these certain men had become tamai, had become unpresentable because they had touched a dead body. Now, it was probably a close relative because you would only be allowed to touch the corpse of a dead relative so that they could be buried. This is a very human thing to do. You bury the dead. We're told to bury the dead. So the dead was buried and they had touched them. That means they were tamai. Anytime we come into contact with blood and death, we are in a tamai state because blood and death and dead blood and death is the opposite of what Adonai is. And to come into his Mishkan and offer a sacrifice, we would have to be in a state of the whoreness, to be tahor, to be in a presentable state. And so these